Hey, what's up 802 CrossFit members? This is Steve. We are on the verge of 21.1. Some of you have already done it. Sorry I didn't get this video out sooner. But for those of you that haven't done it yet, here's a couple tips that'll help you get over some of the fatigue and some of the barriers that might happen and help you to recover. So one of the things that we're going to see in the workout is that we anticipate that yes, the wall walks are a new movement for a lot of us, but we don't need to get into that full overhead position for that, right? So we might think we need to really work on that overhead position, but I think what the bigger barrier is going to be is the double unders and the fatigue that comes with that. That should be your rest time, so we want to be really efficient with those. So some of the things that we're going to see is as we get tired doing those double unders, our shoulders are going to start to round forward, right? So we want to make sure that we have nice looseness in the front of this tissue here and good stability on the back of the shoulder. So what we want to work on is to stretch out some of that front of that shoulder. We have a couple different options. One is we can use a lacrosse ball, right? And we're going to set it up right in front of that shoulder, and we're going to have our put some pressure into that area. And then with this arm, when I'm working on this internal rotation here, so I'm going to tack down some of that tissue and work on this internal rotation. And as I get better at that, I'm going to work on this internal rotation, almost reaching behind my back with it. And that's going to loosen up that anterior deltoid, which is going to be that muscle that's really going to get tight as we start to fatigue and cause that shoulder to round forward. After we do a couple minutes of that on each side, loosening up, you're going to find those tight tissues and work on that internal rotation. Then you can do what we call a bully stretch. So for those of you that have a mobility band at home, you can set it up about elbow height. You're going to put your arm right through it, and then you're going to put your arm behind your back and grab your wrist with the opposite hand. I'm just grabbing onto my own wrist here. And as I step forward and turn away, I'm trying to get that nice stretch into that front of that shoulder. And I can do a little bit of a pull forward with that shoulder for a contraction and a relaxation. And I can work on just opening that shoulder and getting that shoulder blade back. Now, if you don't have a mobility band or a way to set this up at home, you can just kind of do it the same in a similar fashion. You're just going to grab onto something and get yourself into that position where you kind of work on stretching that front of that shoulder, playing around. You might be higher, you might be lower, you might want your thumb down, you might want your thumb up. Most likely thumb down because that's that internal rotation position that we're working on. And you want to stretch out that front of that shoulder so that those muscles don't get really tight. Now that we stretch out the front of the shoulder and loosened up, and I suggest you do this before, not right before your workout, but an hour or longer before. So you can work on it tonight, you can work on it in the morning, but you don't want to do this big stretching right before your workout. But what you can do right before your workout and right after you're done with your stretching is what we've done before is this, I call it a prayer stretch, or we call it framing the door sometimes. We're going to be with our hands at our chest, pushing our palms straight up. Then we want to turn our palms away, and then we're framing a box around us or a door frame around us. And then we just relax our elbows. And we're going to go through that 5 to 10 times. And as we do that and we straighten up, rotate out, and frame that around us, we're going to find that our shoulder blades just sit back. What this is doing is it's activating some of those posterior shoulder muscles that are pulling those shoulder blades back. So we worked on using the lacrosse ball to soften the front of the tissue. We worked on the bully stretch, which we can either do with the band around our elbow, or we can just hold on to something and stretch out that front of that tissue. And then we worked on this prayer stretch, or this framing the door stretch. And that's just gonna be an activator to get those shoulder blades back. The other thing that's gonna happen in the double unders is as we get tired, is we might start piking our feet forward, right? So this is when we're jumping and we're kind of pushing our feet forward a little bit. We get that because we're over-activating, we're getting too tense in the front of our hips. So one of the ways we can work on that is the half kneeling hip flexor stretch. So we're just gonna come into a half kneeling position. We're gonna stay with our trunk lined up right over our thigh. And as I squeeze my butt muscle and just push that hip forward a little bit, I'm gonna feel that stretch right in the front of my hip. It doesn't need to be a big lunge forward or lean backwards. It's just a butt squeeze, and I feel that in the front of my hip. For some of you, you might wanna bias this a little bit. You might wanna put this back leg into internal, external rotation. So if I move my foot across my body, I can try that stretch, or I come back to moving that foot away from my body and doing that stretch again. Most people are gonna find that when they move the foot away, you're gonna get a deeper stretch into the front of the hip. So those are the things you can do to loosen up the hips, loosen up the shoulders, so you're ready to work through those double unders. The other thing, when you're done, before you even start, make sure you get warmed up. Make sure that you're not coming into this cold. So you are doing a little bit of some cardio stuff, working on some light breathing through your nose, and just trying to get a little bit of some body warmth going, so that would make your legs nice and elastic and ready to respond. When you're done, after your workout, make sure you get a walk in, right? Get out there, do a little bit of activity. Don't just lay down. You're gonna be sore in your calves or in the base of your feet and in some other areas, the front of your shoulders. Move around. Spend some time moving after the workout, spend some time the day after moving around after the workout. We want to get ready for recovery so that we're ready for our next week of programming. Have a great open, guys. Can't wait to see your scores.